All right. My name is Robert Collins. This is my servant leader interview questions for Nursing 490 leadership. This is Jared Elsas, RN, and charge nurse. And Jared, do I have your permission to use this interview for the course?
Oh, you do.
Okay, thank you.
As you should have my permission.
All right. First question. What do you think you can do in your leadership role to empower others?
Well, the status that I'm in as the charge nurse in an intensive care unit, we have to use the group as a whole in order to empower. So we use a bit of collaboration, and I use the emphasis on other people's ideas in order to get our things done. For example, if we have a situation where we have a very busy evening, there's multiple admissions or transfers or discharges, I have to make sure that everyone in the unit is taken care of in order to see that we have a good flow of work. I don't want to have one person working too much while another person isn't really doing much. So I'll ask the group in the beginning and periodically through the evening to make sure that we have an adequate distributed amount of work for others, but as well as making sure that their concerns are taken care of, so that someone may be either A, not feeling well, or B, having other issues that need to be taken care of. We'll address those as we go.
Okay. Thank you. And this title of this interview is a servant leader interview. What would be your definition of a servant leader?
Well, a servant leader is kind of what I try to employ, is to make sure that you're in the trenches with your staff, making sure that you empower them to get things done, to see that the ones around you know that you're willing to go the mile for them, to kind of go to battle with them, and making sure that you give them enough leeway and enough encouragement and enough guidance to get things done, but also not just stepping back and having them do all the work, you actually taking part of the work and working as a team.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And what are your personal leadership strengths?
Well, I kind of throw back on those first two questions, using those two things together, allowing my staff to voice their concerns, issues, and then addressing them as we go. We can't solve problems if nobody talks about the problems. So we periodically sit down, discuss things that are going on, and then we kind of open the floor to suggestions, ideas, and ways to solve those as a group. But then, I have to take those, being the leader, I have to take all those in, kind of decipher them and figure out what best works for everyone. You're not going to please everyone every time, but we have to make sure that everyone's concerns are addressed, and then kind of go from there with an acceptable solution.
How do they respond when they are feelings ever ruffled? Or?
Well, people's feelings can sometimes get hurt when it comes down to certain assignments that some people may feel are busier or heavier or more complicated, or if it comes down to time off, especially around holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, people want to spend time with their families. But sometimes you have to not only factor in the group and the individual, but you have to factor in where you work, not only your workplace or your unit. Things need to be taken care of, and so if they don't get their solution this time, maybe the next time they might get their answer.
Okay. All right. And what role do you allow fellow staff members to play in collaborating on decisions? I mean, you kind of sound like you touched on that a little bit.
I think we do. I think staff members have to be involved in solving solutions. An authoritarian system of solving problems, I don't think works anymore. Telling people what to do is not an acceptable way to do it. Obviously, you're still the leader, and the buck kind of stops with you. But making sure that you see if your staff has an idea that you may not have thought of, maybe an out of the box or something that you may just slipped your mind as you're busy, and you can help to solve the bigger problem, or they can help to solve the bigger problem, is the way to do it now. I think years ago people would say the boss was the boss, and you whatever they did or said was what you had to do. But I think leadership has kind of changed now, and it's incorporating everyone's opinions and everyone's ideas, and then kind of taking the best of those to come up with the best solution for the group in the whole and the people you're taking care of.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. And well, one of the questions, how do you handle suggestions and feedback when negotiating changes and improvements I know you touched on that with the individual and just kind of focusing on what, like how it almost seems like it's just as important on how you think that the individual will receive your feedback versus how you take it in.
Sure.
It seems like it's their impression of how you handling it.
It is. So usually when you have, a situation, who knows what, somebody has an excessive amount of work to do, or somebody needs this day off. I usually try to get the group of people together to collaborate to solve an issue, and then to make a list of our solutions. So if person A says I need Wednesday off, and person B says I need Tuesday off, and then there's our person C who needs Tuesday and Wednesday off, we have to look and see what's the best and what prioritizes for everyone, and maybe see if we can make concessions for person A or B, and C may say, okay, that works.
Okay, it sounds like you're able to head off problems before they occur.
Well, there's definitely going to always be problems. Not everyone's going to get a win-win situation, but we try to get the best of not lose-lose for everyone.
Yeah. Okay. And would you describe yourself as a servant leader?
I think I do my best. I think being a servant leader is an evolving concept. I don't think you start out being one. I don't think someone says, go be a servant leader and you can be excellent at it the next day. It takes time to develop these skills in order to have that give and take of what works for not only the organization that you work for, making sure that their goals are solved, but making sure that the individual's goals and desires are taken care of as well. It's definitely a hands-on approach to teaching and leading versus more of a hands-off where you just let them make mistakes and then take them aside or correct the actions then. It's more of a let's solve it as we go. So you work with people that are struggling, and those who aren't struggling, you take their suggestions and incorporate them in to help those that are struggling. So if you have one who is a stellar nurse and is doing a great job, then you see why they are and the things that they do and try to help the others and help the group to accomplish the bigger goal.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We've gone past 5. We still have a couple minutes. Let's see. It sounds like you covered a lot of these just independently. It's like how do you as a servant leader meet the needs of individuals while continuing to meet the groups as a whole? It sounds like you addressed that already. And that it's actually with that, it sounds like the hardest part is really just managing personalities.
Well, yeah, anytime you work with groups, you're going to have different personalities. Not everyone grew up the same. Not everyone came from the same type of family, the same background, for most nurses, most of them came from the same type of education, but everyone's been taught a little bit differently, and then whoever taught them how to do their skills and precepted them may have taught them a slightly different way. Nursing has, over the years, it's been kind of a collaboration of ideas on how to best solve it. There are certain guidelines on treating, diagnosis X versus diagnosis Y, but there's different ways to get to the end point while still having good solutions. So I try to do the best to say what works for us and what works for making sure that we keep not only patients safe, but the bottom line safe. Although healthcare is not a dollar-driven thing, it truly is. It comes down to money spent, money's used, and if we can't keep those under control, then patients can and will suffer.
Okay. All right. Well, that pretty much covers the question. Thank you so much for letting me do it.
Not a problem. I appreciate
and again,
it.
my name is Robert Collins, Nursing 490 Leadership Servant Leader Interview.